So what is the temperature of Tar Heel football? Huddle up.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
Ready, break! What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ, the Tar Heel. And with Carolina football about a month and a half away, Carolina football practice about to start, man. We are starting to gear up for, obviously, football season, man. And I thought that it would be a perfect time to talk about the temperature of this North Carolina Tar Heel football program. But before we talk about what it currently is right now, I want to take a little bit of a trip back in the past, if you will, to the beginning of Mack 2.0. You know what? Maybe we'll go a little bit before that. And remember that 2017, 2018 campaigns, just abysmal football, a place that the University of North Carolina should never be on the gridiron, right? Just really, really bad football. And to a certain extent, after that 2018 season, they fire Larry Fedora, man, and we are looking, for all intents and purposes, a savior who can turn this UNC football program into a respectable program once again. At least respectable, right? At least respectable. I think we all have our ideas of what North Carolina football can be. Some people have a higher ceiling than others. But we're all looking for somebody to just take those stinking reins, man, and at least get us back to, above average, which is, I would say that's the very bottom of what this program, that brand, et cetera, should be. And I want to go back to when I found out that Mack Brown was hired as the coach, that he was coming back. And I initially had some mixed emotions. I was really surprised. I guess I was even about the same level of surprise as when Jeff Collins was hired as the defensive coordinator this year. And I remember just thinking, like, this could be a slam dunk hire. Like, we're talking about the Mack Brown, right? One of the most winningest coaches in football history, one of the greatest coaches in Carolina history, even though he's never won a national title, obviously, at UNC, even though he's never won an ACC title at UNC. We had some of our best years in the 90s under his tutelage, and he's just getting back. He did a really good job at Texas. Obviously, things kind of fell off at the end, and, there's a lot of people that obviously, pushed him out, if you will, and he gets into commentating. And I remember when Mack announced that he was coming back, man, I remember the excitement that I had. I remember him talking about, we're coming here to compete for national championships. And as a UNC football fan, somebody who is diehard, even before that 2017 and 2018 campaign, I was in it to stinking win it, man, throughout the stinking year. As abysmal as they were, I have to tune in and watch every game, as much as it stinking pains me, because I just love Carolina football. I'm just one of those psychos like that, I guess. But I remember those words resonating with me and me thinking to myself, that's what we need. We need somebody with the vision. We need somebody who's not afraid to say things that many people may scoff at. You'll have those people, right? Carolina could never win a title in football. Okay, you are more than welcome to your opinion. But the fact that somebody had the audacity, right, the brass, to say, we're coming there to compete for national titles, man, those were music. That was music to my stinking ears, man. And then we end up flipping Sam Howell from FSU. And I remember thinking, bro, here we go, man. The ball's rolling. Recruiting is going through the roof. I mean, he was able to salvage that first class, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was a top 25, top 30 class. They might have been top 35, but it was, last minute, he's able to pull some of these really good players over to our side. Then the next year, man, we're like top 15 class. Next year, top 15 class. Like 3 straight top 15 classes in a row. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, now we're finally getting the talent, right? Which is going to enable us to get the depth. 2019 comes, man, and we start the season off by beating South Carolina. I mean, huge victory, bro. I mean, we're talking about 2 years of just being atrocious. And then South Carolina, a team that I can't stand, a team that, I consider a rivalry, even though they're not in our conference anymore. That was so big to beat an SEC team at a neutral site in game 1 after everything that we had gone through in those past 3 years, even the fallout of the end of, Mitch Trubisky's last year. So we beat South Carolina. I was so stinking excited. That me and my son, my father, we all decided, hey, we're getting tickets, man. We're going to go see Mack Brown's first home game as the Miami Hurricanes rolled into town. And, dude, I am telling you right now, I've been to a lot of Carolina football games. I have never in my life seen Keaton Stadium with so much stinking buzz, man. That game was like, this is what it's about. As I'm looking around, there was a good amount of Miami fans there, but the Carolina fans were so excited, man. I mean, you just listening to people talk about, hey, we beat South Carolina. Could you imagine if we beat Miami? And then Miami comes in, and it's just a phenomenal game. The crowd is absolutely electric. And Daz Newsome has that stinking great touchdown catch in the back right corner of the end zone. Just a dime from Sam Howell, the true freshman. And once again, bro, we're thinking, oh my gosh, bro, we're going to do this, right? Like, nobody expected us to go undefeated that year, but you beat South Carolina in game 1 on a neutral site. You beat Miami at home. You're starting to see the fruit, right? You're like, this is why Matt came back. This is what we can do at UNC. And he's doing this without years and years of recruiting, if you will. And I remember just thinking, man, the ceiling is stinking. Oh, dude, it just exponentially grew higher. And then you have the hiccup against App State, and, it is what it is. I wasn't upset at all. Carolina finished 7-6. They smashed Temple in the Military Bowl, bro. And I'm thinking to myself, here we go. Successful campaign. 2 years, 2 wins, 3 wins. In the last 2 years, 5 total wins. We won 7 in that first campaign, and we won a bowl game. 7-6. Bam. Come back the next year, 2020. Carolina goes, 8-5? Or 8-4. They're 8-4. Obviously, it's a shortened season because of COVID and everything. And they play in the Orange Bowl, a New Year's Six Bowl. And despite having some opt-outs and all that kind of stuff and, all the craziness of 2020, Carolina was up and they had a great chance of beating Texas A&M. And they could have been the Orange Bowl champions, right? This is what it's about. I'm excited. 2019 and 2020 were some of the most exciting years for Carolina football, man. And then you have the hiccup in 2021. Carolina starts number 10 overall in the nation. They take that trip down to Lane Stadium and 17-10 loss. And it's like, oh, man, that's not how we wanted to start the season, but we're going to fix this, right? We're going to fix it. And this is when I kind of started to see like a negative trend. As I saw the first 2 years, I saw this, this upward trajectory. 2021 took me aback, man. I was like, what in the world just happened, right? Number 10 in the country, dark horse national title contender. We go into Lane Stadium, get smashed around. Maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. And you know what? That coaching staff told us that we were good. So it wasn't just the media. We were told, hey, we've arrived. It might not be this year, it might be next year, but we've arrived, right? Carolina limps to a 6-7 campaign. and they get embarrassed by a wide receiver playing quarterback against South Carolina, the team that I can't stand, in the stinking Duke's Mayo Bowl. I'm pretty sure it was the Duke's Mayo Bowl. But it was embarrassing. Carolina didn't show up. South Carolina smashed us with a backup quarterback, which has been, unfortunately, the trend over the last couple of years. And it was embarrassing. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I can't believe that a Mack Brown-led team could stoop to this low. Just the lack of effort, right? Just the lack of effort. It really bothered me. And so we go through the next year. Sam Howell goes to the NFL. I remember being a little nervous, but I thought to myself, hey, Drake May's a 5-star. Jacoby Criswell is a really good quarterback. I think he was a pretty high up there 4-star. We got a good quarterback room. They don't have any experience, but we're going to be okay. Drake wins the job. Drake ends up being the ACC Player of the Year. Carolina starts off 9-1. Once again, I think they got up to number 13. And then they lose to a Georgia Tech team that's just absolutely atrocious. And it starts this trend of Carolina not finishing. Starting 9-1, I think Carolina finished the season, or maybe they're 8-1, but they finished the season like 1-4, right? So they ended up 9-4 on the season, 9-5 on the season, right? Couple of guys opt out. Carolina plays Oregon tough. It's kind of like a mulligan. It's like, man, we could have won that game, should have won the Holiday Bowl. We were up, couldn't make a stand in the end of the game. Defensive woes, which has been UNC's bugaboo for the past 14, 15 years. But we played Oregon tough, despite the guys that didn't play, despite being a little shorthanded, if you will. And everybody's excited about Drake May coming back. So then we get to last year. And I think there's a little bit of buzz, right? Carolina starts in the top 25. And people start talking about the murderer's row, of a schedule, if you will. They start off with South Carolina, right? What do? We stinking looked amazing against the Gamecocks. I mean, Drake didn't play as well as I think a lot of people anticipated, especially in that game. I think maybe the Minnesota game he had 2 picks, but the defense had like 9 sacks. They were all over Spencer Rattler. South Carolina couldn't move the football, and the defense looked like, for whatever reason, they had taken this tremendous step forward. And then Carolina gets out to a great start on the year, only to finish once again 1-4 on the season. And one of the things that really broke my stinking back in this one, the Virginia game was very upsetting. Georgia Tech down in Atlanta, hey, we should have probably won that game. I think Georgia Tech, especially this year, last year as well, they had some pieces. They're a good team. They're a decent team. The Virginia game just broke my stinking heart. But the one thing that I could not fathom was how the season would end against NC State. I could not believe that after losing to them twice, after State planting the flag in the ground, that Carolina would come out there, especially after the thing about this, because a lot of people said that the Clemson game is kind of like, that was what gassed them. That was the end of it. That was the end of their effort. They were up, or they could have been up at one point in Death Valley, right? 21-3. And obviously the Omarion Hampton fumble at the goal line was a game changer. There was a couple of big plays in that game that kind of changed the trajectory of that game. But Carolina played them pretty tough. They belonged on that field down in Death Valley, right? And I thought to myself, Carolina's going to stink and bring it against State, man. I mean, this is hatred. This is the embodiment of hatred. They're going to be pissed off. They didn't stink and finish that Clemson game. And Carolina came out, and I have never been more ashamed of the product that was on the field. I mean, I can honestly say this, Tar Heel Nation. I was more proud of the effort. We're not talking about the product, okay, as far as the skill and everything of the 2017, 2018 team. When Ratliff Williams was out there stinking balling, even though Carolina was terrible, He was having really good years. He was playing football. I was more proud of that effort than I was last year, Carolina and Raleigh, man. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And then everybody opts out, and, the West Virginia game in the bowl was also embarrassing. And you could tell because probably 75-80% of the fans that were there were West Virginia fans in Charlotte. So the question is what is the current temperature of this football program? Because the past 3 years, Carolina's come into the season ranked in the top 25. And all 3 years, the team has fell off at the end of the year, right? They keep giving us this, it's like a roller coaster, man. You get to this stinking high, and all of a sudden, it's just a stinking nosedive, right? And it's so frustrating. I know Tar Heel Nation is so frustrated. And so Carolina comes in 2024. There's no more Drake and May. Okay, you got Omarion Hampton, the All-American running back. You have a new defensive coordinator. And you got a real vanilla schedule. And there's not a lot of hype going into this team. I haven't seen Carolina on any top 25 lists in any of the magazines that I've read. I haven't heard them being talked about at all. It's even crazy because I feel like they've been abnormally quiet this off cycle, if you will, right? It's not a lot of media attention. Yeah, Tar Heel Illustrated and Inside Carolina, they're putting their things together and they're doing fantastic jobs. But I feel like the Carolina coaching staff, more so than in past years, has really just kind of alienated itself. And there hasn't been a lot of media exposure at this point. And there's two schools of thought that you can think about this. Why is that? Is it because they're finally realizing that they need to focus on themselves as opposed to following or paying attention to what, people on the outside think? Are they finally okay with the nation having lesser expectations? Would you rather have high expectations and fail at those expectations, or would you rather have low expectations and exceed those expectations? Do you want people to sleep on you as the season gets here? I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but I feel like there's some concealment going on. And I'm cautiously optimistic. That's what I meant to say about what we're going to see this fall from this Carolina football team. Expectations are low. And you've even seen that in the fan base. There's not a lot of chatter. There's not a lot of people that, at least at this point, are getting excited about the season. Now, I do believe that there are those of us like myself that it doesn't matter, man. August 29th comes on. You see that Argyle, that Carolina blue and white. You see them up there in Minnesota. They're going to be locked in. They're going to want to see what Carolina puts on the field. And they're going to ride with them all the way to the end because that's what stinking Tar Heels do. And then there are also going to be people who, they fall off the bandwagon as soon as that first sign of adversity comes. And I'm not mad at them at all. I understand the frustration. But I do think that Carolina could possibly do something this year. And I'm going to be releasing, obviously, my official 2024 predictions and preview show here soon. The goal is to do it a month out. So hopefully by the 29th, we'll get that all put together. No promises. But, I'll say this. I'll say this because I think that there are a lot of question marks. Who's going to play quarterback? How well is that offensive line going to hold up? What wide receiver is going to be able to take the top off? Obviously, can't expect anybody to necessarily fill Tez Walker's shoes, but somebody that can be a competent deep threat down the field to open things up so that teams can't stink and put 8 in the box, 9 in the box, and stop Big O and Darwin Barlow. what is Jeff Collins' defense going to look like? Yes, we know they're going to be aggressive, but how is that going to work first year against the teams that we play? These are all huge question marks, man, because there are so many new pieces, and I can't wait to talk about those things in that preview and prediction show. But the question is what is the temperature of this program right now? I feel like in 2019, 2020, dude, it went from stinking, 78 degrees. Well, actually, probably before that, 2017, 2018, it was like 32 degrees. And then it got all the way up in 2020 to about 95 degrees, to where we're all thinking, oh, dude, 2021, we're about to stinking hit triple digits. And what happened? We went right back down into about 60 degrees. And then the next year, they kind of teased us, right? I think we started 8-1, 9-1, get to that Georgia Tech game. And then the rest of the season, we went from stinking, we'll say 88 degrees to about 55, 60 degrees. And then we started the next year, same way, boom, 6-0, right? Red hot, everybody, national title contenders, possibly, dark horse, only to stinking see that temperature plummet once again down into the 50s. And I think right now, I'd like to say that Carolina is like maybe room temperature. I feel like that is the perceived temperature of this program right now. Some people like it about 69, 70. I've seen people 71, 72. That's what I would say the temperature is right now. Now, that's not to say that the temperature by the end of this year isn't going to be up here. And it's not to say that the temperature at the end of the year is not going to be down here. And that is the most interesting, captivating thing about this season is, for the first time in a while, expectations are not through the roof. They're not. It's kind of just mediocre. Just kind of back there in the bushes, man. Nothing out front. Nobody's talking about us. But I do believe that you might want to bring your cutoff shirt, if you know what I'm saying. Because things could possibly get hot. Not saying they're going to get hot. Make sure you bring a windbreaker, okay? Carolina fans, Tar Heel Nation, okay? Make sure you bring that stinking windbreaker. But at the same time, man, get ready to have them stinking guns out, bro. Because the sun might shine, and it might stinking surprise you. So let me know what you think down in the comment section, man. What is the temperature of this Tar Heel team? What are your expectations going into this season? Are you excited? Are you not excited? Are you just exhausted? Or are you one of those ride or dies, man, that win, lose, or draw, bro, I'm here, and I'm going to stinking go to war with you? Let me know down in the comment section. I love you guys. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll catch you on the next one, baby.